Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. You're watching a new episode of Home Place Florida show, and I'm your host, Steve Feller. Hello everyone. Welcome again to a new episode of Home Place Florida show. And topic of this show will be hurricanes in Florida. Well, we had a hurricane this year. It's a Hurricane Ian that just passed about months ago, Florida state. Unfortunately, there was a lot of devastation in the area that it touched down, and nothing we can do about this. It's basically the way Florida it is, right? But today's episode, I want to talk about what to do when you buy a property in Florida, how to be prepared when you already live in Florida, and what to afraid and what not to afraid about hurricanes. First of all, you need to know that hurricanes in Florida only in summertime, and they start June 1st and they go until basically November 30th, which is not always the case. Usually hurricanes happen in August, September, when cold air start coming from up north, mixing with hot air in Atlantic Ocean, and that's when time starts basically creates those swirls of the hurricanes and depressions, and it start moving toward the land. Usually it hits islands first and Cuba, because those who don't know, Cuba is the closest island in the south side of the United States, and it's only 90 miles from the Key West, Florida, which is the most southern part of the continental United States. And we usually know, we've been fortunate that these modern days synoptics and people who watching weather, right, professional services, they given us heads up way earlier what may happen, and they're giving us different computer models and this and that, so that's understandable. Well, if you never live in Florida, right, and you planning to relocate in Florida, to move in here and buy some property, it's nothing to be scared, because some people say, oh, maybe not to live in Florida because hurricanes. Well, if you go to Midwest, maybe you have some twisters there. If you go California, you may have some earthquakes there. So it's not something that you should afraid, but you should be prepared. So rule number one, when you buy a house, you should ask your realtor, and as a realtor, I always telling my customers, my clients, you need to look at the location. Obviously, when people think of Florida, they always think beautiful beach, and they're thinking of beach house, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of expensive properties in there. And first of all, not everybody can afford to buy property on the beach. That's one thing. Florida not as cheap as used to be back in, let's say, in 70s and 80s. Especially these days, everything is overpriced, and if you look at the Florida shorelines where they're close to the beach, when you can literally walk in your flip-flops from your house or from your condo apartment to the beach, that costs a lot of money. But those of you who can afford this, that's beautiful, and I always look forward to speak to customers who are looking to buy on the beach. However, there's a cost come to the living on the beach, right? And how the cost reflects your living and expenses. First of all, if you buy a house, it's recommended that house has to be up and code, right? What does it mean? Every few years, or maybe it's every year, I'm not a construction business, I'm not exactly sure, but I know every few years, different counties and states update construction codes for the buildings, right? And what does it mean? It's professional engineers and professional services consulting states, they reviewing our circumstances at which something happened, and they thinking how to improve quality of construction. So if you have hurricane or if you have flooding, something that that doesn't happen. So for example, if you look at the houses that were built in 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, there are some houses that literally had very low elevation compared to, and again, what is elevation? Elevation is it's a level of, for those who are not familiar with this term, it's a level from the sea level, right? So elevation from the, let's say if you have a water and how high it is from the water. So some houses stay in a slab, they create basic ground earth there and put concrete slab. Some stay right in the ground. Modern days houses are required to be built either on a high elevation. Basically they have to grade some earth there and create like a little hill and then build house on that, or you need to elevate house on concrete blocks. And again, I'm not a construction engineer, I'm not in construction business, but what needs to happen, so you probably, if you drove around beach areas, you see there's a lot of condominiums. They don't have living space starts on the first floor. They have everything starts from second floor. First floor usually it's a garage. Why garage? Because garage is it's not insured. It's called non-insurable space. Again, this is insurance for the house. It's very deep conversation. I hope one day I will invite some insurance agent to my show so we can have more questions and disclose more interesting stuff, discuss. However, what happens now if you buy a house or condo on the beach, you'll pay a lot of insurance. Cost will go toward the flood insurance, toward wind mitigation policy, and that creates extra costs. So you have to be minded about that. Also, if you have situation when hurricane moves into the area, like this year we had to evacuate from our area in Florida, because hurricanes create near the water, they create what's called a water surge, right? So sea level surge. So basically water will come and flood everything and destroy properties. It doesn't matter, you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you need to evacuate from those areas. And the reason is when government tells you, local governments tells you that it's a warning and it will be mandatory evacuation from your zone. I'll cover this right away, right now. So you need to understand this is not a joke. This is not something that, oh, my old neighbor told me that he lives last 50 years in this area and nothing happened to him. It only takes one time, guys. So it's only one time. So really don't joke with the nature. All right. So that's my advice. However, what you need to do to be prepared if you have hurricane coming to your area and you have private house or townhome, you need to make sure that your windows are protected. So many houses, especially by modern code, they have either special hurricane-proof windows, which usually are more expensive and they in the shore area, or they have windows shutters. It's metal or wood boards or metal sheets that have already special bolts around the window frame outside of the house, and they get bolted into the windows and they close. Why it happens? Because first of all, high pressure can damage your window. If it doesn't break, it can damage because it may start leaking from the water. Second of all, if something flies, and again, if you're talking about 150 to 200 miles an hour wind, there will be guaranteed a lot of debris flying. It could be pieces of trees, could be pieces of roof from your neighbor, or your roof can fly to neighbor's house. Can be somebody's fence, can be anything. So what you need to do, you need to protect those windows, and that's very important. Second, you need to have generators. Well, generators and power, because oftenly when this happens, power will go off. All right, so I live in Florida about almost 20 years, and I had only one time that we're without the power for the entire week. This is tough, especially when it happens in summer, and it's hot and humid in Florida, as you know, during summertime. Winter is beautiful, but summer hot and humid, even in Central Florida where I live. So be prepared. What size of generator you buy, it's really up to you. Personally, I'm not a big fan of investment to big generators because, first of all, they're bulky, they're heavy, they require a lot of fuel and extra expense. So if it really happens once every few years, you can evacuate to some different area and spend that money that you spend on generator on a hotel, or you can literally have smaller generator which will generate, I don't know, about 4 or 5 kilowatt power, and that will be enough for your refrigerator. And if you have portable air conditioner, it will not plug in, will not power the whole house. But if you have portable AC, which I would also recommend to have kind of like in pair with this little gas generator, then you can plug your AC and lights, and you can even plug little electric stove and cook on it if you'd like to. All right, that's important. Also, so when you buy generators, make sure that you buy a lot of gas. Some generators can have mix of fuel, for example, liquid propane, or they can switch to gasoline. So anyway, you should make sure that it is there and it's in a safe storage. You cannot keep it. I would not recommend for fire hazard. Do not keep this inside of the house, or do not keep it in the garage. The best thing is to keep it in the shade outside and in some external patio, but not inside the house, because those canisters, they're not sealed tight. Even they say they're sealed tight, they're not sealed tight. They evaporate gasoline fumes, which can be toxic to breathe. So, and not can be, they are toxic to breathe. So all this considered. And again, if it happens and God forbid power goes off, usually power company is working hard to bring a lot of extra employees, even from different states, to restore this power. And if you, let's say, if it happens to be a 1 week without power, consider you live in a camping area, right? You live in a camp, so you have small generator power in your house, and that's all. Well, it's enough about generators, but one more thing I want to mention. If you buy a generator, try to think of buying inverter generators. There's 2 types. There's the regular generators and inverter. Inverter, basically, they're more quiet. They're made a little bit differently. The power they use is not constant like in regular generators. So they increase and decrease rotation per minute of the gasoline engine. Depends on a load on the generator. So and they quiet themselves. So if you buy that, consider buying. They're a couple $100 more expensive usually, but they're much better, and your neighbors will be much happier, including yourself too. So next thing I want to talk about evacuation and flood zones, right? So again, when you buy a property, you need to look at the flood zone, and usually you can ask your agent, your realtor, who helps you to find and buy a property, or you can search yourself. There is a website called floodsmart.gov. It's a government website. It's basically an entity of one of the websites of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management, and they will tell you can search by your address or by address that you're planning to buy. They'll tell you which flood zone it is. It's A, B, C, and Zone X. So Zone X, it's basically no flood, and Zone A, it's very high level of flood. If you live in Zone B or Zone C, that's also fine. It's probably preferable because it's not too far from the beach. It's usually good areas to live if you like to go to the beach often, but at the same time, it's not immediate. And the water price is less expensive, properties less expensive, but they still consider to be a good area close to the desirable beach areas, right? I'm not sure how it's done in other counties, but in my county, if you look at at your water bill, if you receive water from the county, usually on the bill they say that this is they'll tell you your zone, right? And when hurricane comes in, you will receive a warning. And these days in cell phones, you'll receive a warning on TV, you'll receive a warning on radio, internet. Government use different channels to communicate with people and tell you that you're maybe subject to evacuation. What does it mean? Many times, if it's evacuation comes in, you have to be prepared, get most important stuff that you need to take with you, your documents, some cash, whatever you prepare to take, your home pets, your animals, and be prepared to leave. If for example, if you have warning that mandatory evacuation will be tomorrow, don't wait until tomorrow. You probably best to not to take a chance and take a road trip today, not tomorrow, because tomorrow everybody will be evacuating from your area and it will be clogged. You may have a lot of traffic on the roads, and and you have a lot of shortage of gasoline, for example, if you need to fill up your car. So your car has to be filled up. Always keep filled up if it's hurricane season, and be ready to go just in case when evacuation become mandatory. I would suggest to contact local authorities and find out if your area is subject to evacuation or will be, if you didn't hear anything on TV, and then take appropriate action. If you have home animals like cats, dogs, birds, I would highly suggest to search ahead of time on the internet and find hotels which are pet friendly, because these days I know a lot of hotels become pet friendly. I'm a pet owner myself. I have a beautiful dog, and I could imagine leave him behind or something that could, he's part of my family, so everywhere I go he goes with me. But that takes special planning, because if you come to a hotel that doesn't accept pets, probably they're not going to let you in. So make sure. All right. Well, that's all. If you have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer to you. Feel free to call me. My number here, 727-492-6291, or you can drop me an email at steve@homeplaceflorida.com, or go to my website, www.homeplaceflorida.com. Thank you for watching. See you next time.